The sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty Texas roadside. Matthew Evans, 77, stood beside his disabled Mercedes, sweat beading on his forehead as he stared at the flat tire. His phone had no signal. The nearest town was miles away, and his arthritic hands could barely grip the lug wrench, let alone change a tire. He'd built a real estate empire worth hundreds of millions. He'd negotiated deals with billionaires and politicians. But none of that mattered now, stranded on a forgotten highway with no help in sight. Then he saw a figure approaching on a bicycle, a young boy, maybe 13 or 14, pedaling toward him with purpose. What happened next would change both their lives in ways neither could imagine. "You need help, sir?" The boy's voice was clear, confident, despite his youth. Matthew turned to see a young black teenager wearing worn jeans and a faded t-shirt, but his eyes held something Matthew recognized: determination mixed with genuine kindness. Yes, I have a flat tire, but I can fix that," the boy said, already dismounting his bike. "My grandpa taught me. Where's your spare?" Matthew hesitated. In his world, nothing came free. Everyone wanted something. "Son, I appreciate the offer, but I can call someone. Phone works out here?" The boy smiled knowingly. "Mine doesn't." "Nobody's does. That's why I stopped." The boy, whose name was Elijah, worked with practiced efficiency. His hands, though young, moved with confidence born from experience. As he worked, Matthew watched in fascination, not just at the skill, but at the quiet dignity in every movement. When Elijah finished, Matthew reached for his wallet. "How much do I owe you?" The boy stepped back, shaking his head. "Nothing, sir. Just helping out." "Nothing?" Matthew pulled out several $100 bills. "Young man, your time is valuable." "So is kindness," Elijah replied simply. "My grandpa says you can't put a price on doing what's right." Before Matthew could insist, the boy was back on his bicycle, riding away with nothing more than a wave and a smile that would haunt Matthew for days to come. Matthew made it home that evening, but he couldn't stop thinking about the boy. In his 77 years, he'd met countless people. Most wanted something from him: money, connections, favors. This child had wanted nothing. He called his assistant, Jennifer. "I need you to find someone." "Who?" "A teenage boy. Black, about 13 or 14, lives somewhere between Austin and San Antonio, rides a bicycle. First name is Elijah." "Sir, that's not much to go on." "I don't care if you have to hire private investigators. Find him." It took 3 weeks, but Jennifer tracked Elijah down to a small town called Harlan, population 3,000. Elijah Johnson lived with his mother Sarah in a modest house on the edge of town. His father had died in Afghanistan when Elijah was 7. Matthew drove back to Harlan himself. The house was small but immaculately maintained. Flowers in the yard, fresh paint on the shutters, pride in every detail despite obvious financial constraints. He knocked on the door. Sarah Johnson answered, her eyes widening when she saw the expensive car in her driveway. "Can I help you?" "My name is Matthew Evans. Your son helped me a few weeks ago. Changed my tire when I was stranded." Recognition dawned. "That sounds like Elijah. He's always helping people." She called into the house, "Eli, someone's here to see you." Elijah appeared, freezing when he saw Matthew. "The car guy?" Matthew smiled. "The car guy. Can we talk?" Over sweet tea on the small porch, Matthew learned Elijah's story. Sarah worked 2 jobs, morning shift at the diner, evening shift at the gas station. Elijah took care of his younger sister after school, did household repairs, maintained their elderly neighbor's yard for free. "He's a good boy," Sarah said, pride and exhaustion mixing in her voice. "Never complains, always helping others." "Why didn't you take the money I offered?" Matthew asked Elijah directly. The boy shrugged. "Didn't need it." "You needed help. That's enough. What do you want to do with your life?" Elijah's eyes lit up. "I want to be an engineer. Build things that help people, but..." The light dimmed. College is expensive. Sarah's face tightened. We'll figure it out. We always do. Matthew saw the determination in her eyes, the same quality he'd built his fortune on. But he also saw the exhaustion, the weight of impossible dreams carried on tired shoulders. What if you didn't have to figure it out alone? Sarah's guard went up immediately. We don't need charity. It's not charity, Matthew interrupted gently. It's an investment. In him. In the future he represents. Over the following weeks, Matthew became a fixture in Harlan. He visited regularly, talking with Elijah about school, dreams, life. He met teachers, reviewed report cards, attended a robotics competition where Elijah's team won 3rd place with a creation built from recycled parts. The more he saw, the more Matthew understood what he'd found on that dusty roadside. Not just a helpful boy, but genuine character becoming increasingly rare in his world of wealth and privilege. One evening, Matthew sat with Sarah on the porch again. I want to establish a scholarship fund, full ride to any university Elijah chooses. Engineering degree. Sarah's hands trembled. Mr. Evans, I don't know what to say. Say yes. But there's more. He pulled out documents. I want to hire you as Director of Community Outreach for my foundation. Salary, benefits, normal hours, no more double shifts. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. Why? Why us? Matthew's voice grew thick with emotion. Because 30 years ago, I was a young man building my first property. A black woman named Ruth gave me a loan when every bank turned me down. Said she believed in hard work and honest dreams. She died before I could fully repay her. He looked at Elijah through the screen door, helping his sister with homework. I see that same quality in your son. That same goodness Ruth saw in me. This isn't charity, Sarah. It's paying forward what I should have paid back long ago. But not everyone in Harlan was happy about Matthew's involvement. In the local diner, whispers spread. Rich white man swooping in like some savior. What's he really want from that family? Probably going to make them sign their house over or something. The rumors reached Sarah's ears. She confronted Matthew the next time he visited. People are talking, saying you must want something, that this is too good to be true. Matthew sighed. I expected that. In my experience, people who've never experienced generosity often can't recognize it. It's not just that, Sarah continued. Elijah is getting attention at school. Some kids are jealous. There was an incident yesterday. Matthew's jaw tightened. What kind of incident? A boy called him. Names. Said he was only getting help because of his skin color, not his merit. Matthew's hands clenched. He'd faced similar accusations throughout his career. Every success attributed to luck or circumstances, never hard work or talent. What did Elijah say? Sarah smiled slightly. He said, Mr. Evans helps me because I helped him first. That's how kindness works. Matthew felt something crack in his chest, the armor he'd built over decades of ruthless business dealings. The scholarship was just the beginning. Matthew discovered a passion he'd forgotten, helping people not for profit, but for purpose. He established the Ruth Memorial Foundation, named after the woman who'd believed in him. The foundation provided scholarships, small business loans, and community grants. Elijah became the first recipient, but not the last. Sarah proved to be brilliant at community outreach. She identified families who needed help but were too proud to ask. She built bridges between Matthew's wealth and real community needs. But the real transformation was in Matthew himself. One day, 6 months after the tire incident, Matthew sat at a foundation board meeting. The other board members, wealthy friends from his business days, were discussing an applicant. Her credit score is too low, one said dismissively. Her business plan is solid, Matthew countered. She's a single mother trying to start a catering business. Sometimes circumstances create bad credit, not bad character. You're getting soft in your old age, Matthew. Matthew smiled. No, I'm getting human again. Approve the loan." 2 years later, Matthew stood in a university auditorium watching Elijah receive a full scholarship to MIT. The same boy who'd stopped to help a stranger now stood on stage, his future bright with possibility. But the real shock came during Elijah's acceptance speech. 2 years ago, I changed a tire. I didn't think much of it, just something my grandpa taught me, just helping someone who needed it." He paused, looking directly at Matthew in the audience. "What I didn't know was that the man I helped would change my life. But not in the way you might think." The audience leaned forward. "Mr. Evans didn't just give me money. He showed me what it means to pay kindness forward. He showed me that success without compassion is just wealth. Real richness comes from lifting others." Elijah's voice grew stronger. "So I'm accepting this scholarship with a promise. Everything I build, every success I achieve, will be used to help others the way Mr. Evans helped me. Because that's the real legacy. Not what we accumulate, but what we give away." The applause was thunderous, but Matthew barely heard it. He was remembering Ruth, remembering the scared young man he'd been, remembering the fortune he'd built that had felt so empty until a teenage boy refused payment for changing a tire. 5 years later, Elijah returned to Harlan during his summer break from graduate school. He'd started a nonprofit bringing STEM education to underserved communities. Matthew, now 82, sat on the same porch where this had all begun. "You know," Matthew said, "people ask me what my greatest business achievement was. Building a billion-dollar empire, they assume." "What do you tell them?" Elijah asked. "I tell them it was being stranded on a roadside when a boy on a bicycle taught me that the richest thing you can give someone is help without expectation of return." Elijah smiled. "And the greatest thing you can receive is the opportunity to pass that forward." They sat in comfortable silence watching the sunset paint the Texas sky gold and purple. Sarah brought out lemonade, no longer exhausted from double shifts but thriving as the foundation's director. Her daughter was in college now too, studying medicine. "Mr. Evans," Sarah said, "the foundation just funded its 100th scholarship." Matthew nodded. "Ruth would be proud." "My grandpa would be too," Elijah added. "He always said one act of kindness creates ripples we can't see." Look at the ripples we created. From one flat tire, one boy who stopped to help, one man who learned that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in lives touched and futures changed. The story of Matthew Evans and Elijah Johnson spread far beyond Harlan, Texas. It became a reminder that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest transformations. Matthew didn't need to be stranded. Elijah didn't need to stop. But both chose actions that seemed insignificant in the moment, one asking for help, one offering it freely. That choice rippled outward. Hundreds of scholarships, dozens of businesses funded, countless lives changed. But perhaps the greatest change was in Matthew himself. He'd spent his life accumulating wealth, believing money was the measure of success. A teenage boy taught him that true richness comes from generosity, and the greatest return on investment is seeing others succeed. If this story touched you, remember, you never know when a simple act of kindness will change someone's life, including your own. The person you help today might become your greatest teacher tomorrow. The kindness you show might create ripples that transform communities. Share this story with someone who needs to remember that we all have something valuable to give, and sometimes the greatest gifts cost nothing but time and heart. Subscribe to Real Justice Stories for more tales of compassion, transformation, and the unexpected ways kindness comes back to us. Because real justice isn't just about holding people accountable, it's about recognizing and rewarding genuine goodness when we find it. Thank you for watching. Remember, every act of kindness creates ripples. Be the person who starts the wave.